Hi guys, it's Phil Wintermantle here. Thanks for joining us. And today we are joined by someone that you may have seen actually recently at our recent national event on stage, and his name is Jonathon Monk, and we're going to be covering off how to lasso more customers from the web, and specifically focusing on using keywords to get on the front page of Google, hopefully in a matter of days, and Jonathon's going to share that with us. Jonathon is an EC member, he's a mastermind level member, and he's got some really great content that we're going to go through today with you. So Jonathon, how are you doing?
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining us on this sunny evening. Hopefully this should be a really useful session for everyone. I mean, our business does focus on local SEO, but what I'll be running through with you today is just as relevant if you have a site which covers the whole of the UK or even internationally. It's really going to be covering off the correct selection of keywords which you can then put onto your web pages and possibly get found within days in Google. So before I sort of get kick-started really on the sort of the meat of the presentation, just to quickly give you a bit of an overview, just very quickly about me. I come into the SEO industry not as a techie computer geek, but really as someone who has had a bit of business experience. I've had some businesses in the past. I've got a property portfolio, and my route into SEO really was whilst one of the owners of a cycle retailing business, and I had a number of SEO companies come and see us, in which we invited in to optimise our website so we sold more bikes online. And it really frustrated me, the smoke and mirrors in which they were sort of portraying, not giving clear answers to questions that I was giving. And I decided I can do this better myself. I learned SEO whilst still at the bike business. And then I came to the conclusion actually I could possibly make, there's a better business opportunity in SEO itself rather than selling, because we focus on electric bikes, and then went into the SEO industry itself. So I really come to this from a practical business owner point of view rather than a sort of a geek, techie point of view.
You're looking very different in that photo as well from last time we saw you.
Little beard has grown since then, Phil. So
I think it was the cowboy hat.
Too much time behind the computer.
The cowboy hat was the main thing.
So it might sound like an outlandish claim here, get onto the front page of Google in days. I'm not saying that there's a guarantee that what you'll do if by following these steps that you will get onto Google in a matter of days, but it's more than possible. And I've seen it with clients, and I've had it happen myself, that if you select the right keywords, if your website is of a sufficient age, so it's at least a year old, you're going for less competitive keywords, and have a bit of luck, but it is actually possible to have web pages ranking literally within a matter of days. I do sort of hasten to add, though, that as a general rule, search engine optimization does take time. It's an investment that you put in, but sometimes you can be lucky and you can get results very quickly. But generally, just have some right expectations with SEO that it generally takes a few months before things get rolling. So just very quickly to summarise what this webinar is going to cover, I'm going to quickly first talk through about what is search engine optimization, then how to select your keywords, and once you've selected those keywords, how to then map them onto your website and where to put them, then how to actually get those keywords onto web pages and how to put them onto your web pages and how that's best done. Once you've then created those pages, then how we submit those to Google so they know about your new page, and finally actually measuring keyword rankings so you can see you've now selected the keywords, but then how are they actually performing in Google and what rankings have you got, because if you can't measure it, you can't improve it. And then a wrap up at the end. Just so you can relax a bit through the webinar, all the slides are available at this URL, so www.localseoservices.co.uk/EC-webinar-keywords, so you can download it and go through the slides again at your leisure. So please just sit back and enjoy the webinar. So in looking at search engine optimization, especially as a business owner, what is the main result that you want as a result of SEO? Well, fundamentally, SEO attracts more visitors to your website. More visitors equal more leads from your website to your business. More leads equals more sales. So fundamentally, as a business owner, the only thing I was interested in by going through the SEO exercise was to get more sales for my business. So that's the obvious result number one. But in terms of actually getting to that result, you need to make sure that people actually find your listings for your keywords. So just to clarify here, there's a number of areas of the Google results. You probably all know this, but just to quickly run through them. At the top and down the side, where I put here in red, is Google AdWords or the Google adverts. These are paid for listings. You've then got what we have here in orange is the natural listings. So this could be an actual web page from your website. And at the bottom, what we have here are what are called Google Places results. So this is a Google Places listing. This isn't actually a page from your website. And what we're going to specifically be talking about today are the Google natural listings. So it's the web pages from your website and where they will appear on Google.
Yeah, just to add to that, John, of course, with the Google AdWords piece there at the top and the side, and of course the Google Places results, there is content in the vault as well. If you're newer to the circle and you want some more information on that, there's content on both of those pieces in the vault. But yeah, today we're going to be covering the natural organic listings, aren't we?
Yeah, that's brilliant. Yeah, great. Thanks, Phil. So just very quickly, I'm just going to look at some real-world examples of some keywords, actually from some of our clients, and just, I suppose, to build a little bit of trust here that we do have some real clients and we do have some real results. So there's a keyword here, Surrey County Council planning application. So this is a keyword that people do actually type into Google when they're looking to do some planning applications in Surrey. For example, here, another client, Leaflet Bristol, Leaflets Bristol, Leaflet Distribution Bristol. There are all sorts of combinations that people actually type into Google when they're looking for something. It's never the same thing. It's always slight variations. And I'll come into a bit later how we then start to determine what are the variations that people put in and what phrases you want to be targeting on your website so you actually drive some quality traffic. People are actually going to buy stuff. We're looking at keywords, and in the previous slide it was some rankings that we had from some of our customers. But rankings are actually very important. What these stats here show, these are stats from Google, is that if you're in position 10, you'll get about 1% of the clicks. If you're in position 1, you'll get about 18%. So there's a significant benefit to being higher up in Google in relation to the clicks that you get. And there's a direct correlation, obviously, between where you are positioned in Google and the traffic that you're going to drive. And so therefore, to get more inquiries, you need to be near the top. Now, we kind of all knew that, I think, but this just kind of reiterates how important it is to be ranking well in Google. And this is the primary target and goal of search engine optimization, to make sure that we're ranking highly in Google. Just quickly, whilst we're talking about Google, some recent statistics have shown Google's share is slightly dropping and Bing's are slightly rising, but last stats from Experience show that Google had about 89% of the search market in the UK, compared with Bing at 4.99%. So as I say, Google are hugely dominant. What we're talking about today, I'm probably going to be referring more to Google than the other search engines, but everything that we do here today is just as relevant to the other search engines, because in essence they crawl the website and look for web pages just like Google does. So there's nothing we're going to be talking about today which is specifically at Google and is ineffective for Bing and Yahoo. What we're doing today will work also for Bing and Yahoo. What's a couple of things as to why search engine optimization matters is that a lot of people actually like the organic results, i.e. the natural results, compared with the paid results. So the stats here that 70 to 80% of users ignore the paid ads. That search is the #1 driver of traffic to content sites, beating social media by 300%, and 75% of users never scroll past the first page. I think that we've all kind of experienced that in our own searching on Google. So it's just really to say that search engine optimization, it kind of does matter, and if you want to be driving customers from the web, you know, for your business, it does matter, and it can drive a lot of business. But one thing to bear in mind with search engine optimization, it's not like sticking an advert in the paper where you could get phone calls next week. It's very much an investment. It's very much laying a pipeline. So it will take time to lay the pipeline, investment in doing that. And typically it takes, I'd say, 3 to 6 months before you really start seeing good, regular, long-term benefit from search engine optimization. But the benefits can be huge. When I was in Basingstoke last week, I raised a couple of examples of clients that we've had. For example, a personal trainer who we did some work for him. It was a relatively short amount of work. I think we worked for him for about 2 months, and he's still getting leads from his website this week, and he's still getting leads, and we did work over a year ago. So search engine optimization is very much an investment which can pay you back again and again, but patience is needed. And there are many elements to search engine optimization. There's many factors that affect how your site performs. Links being one, getting a link from someone else's website to yours. Your actual website itself, the speed of the web pages, so it's not too slow. The server, that it's possibly in the UK compared with in America. The age of your domain, so if it's brand new, for example, it might take you longer to rank on Google compared with if you have a domain that's 5 or 10 years old. The actual design of the site needs to be in a way in which Google finds it easy to read, the code behind it. For example, WordPress is very good. And your content. You need to have good content on your website, relevant content that people are interested in. But the foundation and the bedrock for all search engine optimization always starts with the keywords. The things that people are actually typing into Google in the first place to look for web pages that answers their results. So the keywords are the starter for everything. And unless you do this first, other activities such as building links or writing content on your website, it could be nowhere near as effective if you haven't done the keywords and identified those keywords first. And that's precisely what we're going to talk about today.
Excellent. It seems like the obvious place to start, and potentially we could do some future webinars and some of the other stuff. But like you said, this is going to be the key things to build the foundation. So this is why we've decided to focus on keywords and how we can look at the keywords to build the foundation of your site.
Absolutely, absolutely. So the first part we're going to go through is actually selecting your keywords. Now, I just want to raise a bit of technical jargon here called long-tail keywords. This it's fairly simple, really. If you type shoes into Google, it's fairly unspecific. There'll be lots and lots of people searching for it, and you'll probably find that it'll only be the very big websites who will appear as results for that. The chances of you as maybe an e-tailer of shoes or a local shoe outlet of actually being able to rank for the word shoes is next to zero. So even thinking along those lines, you're wasting your time. But on the other hand, if you're much more specific with something like Nike women's running shoes, as it's been put down there, there's a much greater, it's much more specific. There's actually a much greater buying signal in that phrase that someone's typing in, and there's a greater chance that someone's actually going to find your website. So very much what we're going to be talking about today is not finding very general phrases like shoes. It's going to be how to find those more specific phrases like Nike women's running shoes that are actually going to deliver relevant buyers to your website. So that's good. So it's long tail keywords.
Yeah, definitely. With the long tail keywords, it's absolutely right there. What you said, it's about identifying people that are ready to purchase, ready to buy. And someone who types in shoes into the search engine is very different from someone that types Nike's women's running shoes. It's much more specific, or even more specific than that is someone that knows what they're looking for and is looking to buy something specifically. So that's why the long tail keywords links back to kind of those buying signals and bringing in people that are looking to buy as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. So the very first step of this is to identify what you do. And it's a brainstorming stage, this is. In terms of identifying keywords, first of all, it's on a spreadsheet or a piece of paper, and we're going to do a live demo actually going through some examples in a second, to try and identify what are your keywords. So I'm going to be using an example of a chiropractic clinic in a second. So in this example, so what do you do? As a chiropractor, as a chiropractic clinic, what do you do? And the specific example we're having, they actually do chiropractic, physio, sports massage. They did a whole raft of disciplines, and they were in Croydon, in South Croydon. So obviously, where do you do it? And it's also useful to identify who your customers are. So, for example, they have babies as customers who I think they do baby massage. They look after sportsmen and women who've had sports injuries, pregnant ladies. So unless you identify these things, it's difficult to then, when you're doing more brainstorming with your keywords, to then broaden out the types of keywords that people might be typing into Google. So let's now, this is a live demo, so let's, I'm just going to exit out of this presentation.
So we're going to have a look at the Google Keywords tool now, is that right, John?
That's correct. Firstly, I'm going to go to brainstorming some keywords. Let's just make this a bit bigger. So in that previous example, using Excel here is quite a good tool actually for brainstorming your keywords, and there's lots and lots of variations on keywords that you could type in. So these are chiropractors in Croydon. So even in chiropractors Croydon, there's here a number of variations that you could try out. So chiropractor Croydon, chiropractors, chiropractic, and then reverse them round. So Excel's a great way to quickly start to expand the options that there are. So, I would here firstly start with the different disciplines, like this, and then swap them round. Try chiropractor in Croydon. So Excel's a really good way to sort of then just start to brainstorm and expand your list of keywords.
So this is kind of starting at what we think people will be looking for, is that right?
Yes, you're just sort of preempting what you think. But don't get too hung up about this, because I'm going to in a second go over to the Google Keyword tool, which will also give you other suggestions of what people are typing in. But first of all, I always come up with a number of different variations, because the Google Keyword tool is not perfect and doesn't come up with all the variations, so it's worth initially coming up with a number of variations yourself. So the first step is just to put in what you think people are searching for, and the next phase is to then go to the Google Keyword tool to find out what people actually are searching for. So to find it, I don't know if you've ever used this before, but so go to Google, type in Google Keyword tool, as we have at the top, and let's hopefully all, and then we click on Google Keyword tool. Now when you go to this, I've signed in, I've already signed into Google, and it's a good idea to do, if you have a Google account, is to sign in also, because it gives you more suggestions. And if you don't have a Google account, I'd suggest you sign up for one, because it'll give you more alternative keyword suggestions, this tool, if you've signed in. Okay.
And for those of you obviously have used it before, it's going to just be a quick demo to show a couple of key things that you need to do, kind of common mistakes when you're using this tool.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So in terms of getting the keywords in here, first of all, I'll go over to Excel over here. I'll select some keywords. I'll copy those keywords, go back over to the Google Keyword tool here and paste those in. Now, a couple of things to make sure that we have selected correctly. Over here on the left-hand side, we have three boxes here. We actually need to tick on exact match. So that's basically saying that that's relating, that's exactly what the people are typing in and how many people are searching for that phrase. Other things just to double check. Over here in the centre, make sure that your location is the UK and that all languages and desktops and laptops are all devices. Make sure they're selected. And then as you can see down here, it's done it automatically when I selected exact. Immediately we've got some statistics as to how many people are searching for the different keywords. Now, in reality, because we are looking at a chiropractor in Croydon in the UK, we don't really need this column, global monthly searches, because that's a little bit confusing. So what I'll do here is just go to the columns tab, get rid of global monthly searches, apply. So it just makes the table a little bit neater. And then we have local monthly searches over here. Not to get confused with Croydon here, this is actually local being the UK, so that's UK-wide searches. So we can see here that there are 36 people approximately searching for chiropractor Croydon. It's not an exact figure, it's an approximate figure, but it gives you an idea. If you want more ideas as to other phrases that people are searching for, if you click on keyword ideas here, we can then see below a big long list of keywords that people are typing in. So, and what we can do now is start thinking, okay, these all look like relevant keywords, so let's start selecting these. And in a second, I'll show you then how to download these keywords and start sorting them, because there's a lot of keywords here. It can seem a little bit daunting. So the next phase is to start sorting these keywords so we can start using them. So I've selected a few keywords here. Just as an aside, you can also sort this table. There's the competition tab here. Competition is just an arbitrary figure that that Google have set up, where one is the or high is high levels of competition, i.e. being lots of other websites, and if it's low, which then there's not many other websites, but it just gives you an indication of how competitive that key phrase is, but that should also be read in relation to the number of searches. So if it was high competition with 3,600 local searches, that would be far more difficult to get than high competition and only 36 searches.
So we're now looking for a list here. We're looking for a list of actual keywords that we know are being searched for, and we're going to pull this list off so we can utilize them in our website and in the different things that we're doing. Is that right?
That's right. So at this stage, we've selected a few keywords that look like they could be relevant to my chiropractic clinic in Croydon, and so it's more useful if I actually get these keywords into an Excel spreadsheet. That's the way I do that. So I've selected some keywords that I'm interested in here. I then go to download my keyword ideas here.
Sure, and the point obviously with this is we've moved from keyword brainstorming over to actual searches on Google. Google's telling us this many people are searching on these exact keywords, and that's why we're going to use them.
Absolutely. This takes the guesswork out of selecting what to write about on your pages. So let's say that you're a chiropractor in Croydon and you find that there aren't actually any searches for chiropractor Croydon, Croydon chiropractor. It's actually quite useful to know that. So whilst it might be worth writing a bit about chiropractor Croydon, you might find in actual fact that there are more people searching for chiropractors in Sutton, which isn't that far from Croydon. So maybe you write about chiropractor Sutton and try and pull people in from Sutton instead. So it actually helps to inform as to where the business is relating to your business. So it might even inform where the searches are relating to your business.
Yeah, so it might even inform in terms of also, I think we talk about this later, but potential markets to get into as well, or what people are searching
Absolutely.
for, other areas that you might expand the business into.
Absolutely. Especially, I think chiropractor, I mean, that's a specific type of business in which you probably only draw people in from a certain radius.
Yeah.
Whilst there could be other businesses where you will travel out to different areas, and it may inform of a whole new opportunity for a new area that you could expand into. Absolutely. So we've now downloaded some keywords here. What I'll do, I'll go to the spreadsheet which I've already looked at. Sorry, I won't do that. So let's just get back to this. So we've now got on this spreadsheet a number of keywords. Now, for me, this is saying to me that it'd be worth adding a page to my site called Chiropractic Croydon. Now, there's not that many here, but I will always sort these keywords to determine which are the best ones to use. Now, normally, if there are searches for all of the phrases, I will search according to competition, so having the lowest competition first. Now, just very quickly, for those of you who may not be whizzes on Excel, to sort something, you just go to Data, Sort, untick that, column B, smallest to highest, and then you can sort that list per competition. But there's no, and I'd normally go for the top 2 lowest competition as long as they have searches. Now in this instance, there's no point in going for those because there are very low searches. So in this particular instance, I'll go for the keywords that actually have searches. So I'll go to Sort, C, largest. So on this page, I've found 2 keywords that will definitely be worth targeting if I'm a chiropractic clinic in Croydon. So this is immediately taking the guesswork, started to take the guesswork out of what I actually write about on my website.
Yeah, and obviously with this example, they seem pretty obvious, but you know, with different businesses as well. But you always need to check on your keywords tool, because what you think people are looking for and actually what people are looking for could be very different things.
Absolutely, absolutely. Right, now we have selected some keywords. We need to then get those keywords onto your website. So this section is going to be going through how to actually get them onto your website. Now I've expanded out the list here. This is going. This is our chiropractic clinic in Croydon, and as you can see, we've now put these keywords into nice pretty boxes, and each of these boxes relate to pages, and I've highlighted the top 2 keywords here that we can target on each page. And what we're going to talk about here is how to lay out the website and how to put keywords on pages. Now, the way that most people seem to do it, but it's the wrong way, is to have a services page, and then for everything to then come off of that services page. The reason why this is the wrong way to do it, because Google looks at each page of your website to get an idea as to what your website's about and what themes your website may have. Now in reality, who is actually searching for services on Google? Basically nobody. People will be searching for Chiropractic Croydon, Physio Croydon. So rather than laying out a website like this, a website should be laid out in a way that has distinct themes. So the way we laid out this website was that you had your home page, then you had a treatment page which spoke about all the different types of treatments that the clinic offered, which included chiropractic, physiotherapy, podiatry, massage. So that was one theme, and it's a logical theme for Google to then look at. The next main area that they offered was diagnosis, and finally rehabilitation. And then off of that, obviously quite logically, came the rehabilitation gym and personal trainer. And it shouldn't be underestimated how important it is to actually properly theme your website, because if you imagine how many websites there are out there that lay themselves out incorrectly under services, that don't give Google fewer keys as to what the website is about, if your website is laid out well, it can hugely improve the performance of the site and your keywords. There have been sites I've worked on where literally I've hardly changed any keywords, hardly changed any of the text on the pages, but all we've done is logically laid the pages out so that one page comes off of another in a logical order, and that's made a huge positive impact in terms of rankings for specific keywords from that site. So
So
please don't underestimate the importance of logically laying out your website.
Just to clarify that, John, so what we're seeing here, guys, each orange box is basically a different page on this website. So this is kind of the layout of the website. Whereas what most people do is they have a website, they have a page for their services. So if you're an electrician and you've got a services page, and then within that services page you've got information about your pat testing or your electrical rewire. Whereas actually what John's saying here is what makes more sense to Google to be able to find those different services is to have them laid out in different pages in a way that Google can come through the site and actually find them much easier, rather than kind of being hidden away on a page that's entitled services, basically.
Absolutely. I mean, so you fundamentally want to have a page about all of the major things people are searching for. So as I've said, we found a number of people searching for chiropractic Croydon, so we need to have a page that relates to that. An individual page for each service, then you have a much greater chance of being found. And whether that's chiropractic Croydon or women's Nike running shoes, the same principle applies. In the women's Nike running shoes, you don't want a page that has Adidas running shoes as well as Reebok. You want to have one for Nike, one for Adidas, and one for Reebok. So, and then using the running shoes example, you would probably have the manufacturer first, so Nike running shoes, and then you'd split it down into Nike women's running shoes, Nike men's running shoes. So just like a logical order, really. A bit like if you were writing a report and you have main headings and subheadings. But you'd be amazed how many people's websites are just the home page, and then every page comes off of the home page, and that really isn't helping Google out. You know, they'll be quite confused as to then which page to go to for which search. So, as I said, it can be very effective, this.
And then just John, just before we move on with that, so in order for people to make amends to their site, it's not like we've got to rip up the whole site and start again, is it? There's ways that we can build additional pages and obviously point the traffic through the sites to the right pages. Is that right?
Absolutely. I mean, using this example, I've just gone back to the wrong way of doing it.
Yeah.
Here, where someone may have had a services page which lists down all the services they do, and they may have even gone off to separate pages about each of their services. So it's not a fundamental redesign of this website here.
Yeah.
All we've really done at the next phase is added, rather than a services page, we've added a treatment page, a diagnosis page, and a rehabilitation page, and just had the other pages coming off of the relevant, coming off of that relevant page. So it can be, just a reorganisation of the site rather than a complete rebuild. So, and especially if you have a site like on WordPress or something similar, it's actually very easy to do this, to have to reorganise where the pages come off of each other. So it doesn't even have to be that expensive to reorganise.
And it also makes it more relevant when people land on the site as well, because if they're coming to a page that's specifically to do with what they've searched for, and the page is dedicated to that, obviously you can relate your copy to what people are looking for, and the conversation you can have is very different to if you're just bringing them to a kind of a general page where you might be talking about various different things.
Absolutely. And also, if people go to a website and see some of the main menu items, if you have some of your main keywords as menu items, as people are really searching for, then people are more likely to click on it. If it just says services, it's not as enticing for people to click on as it might be a keyword which actually highly relates to what they're looking for. So if they're looking for a chiropractor in Croydon, they want to be able to see that and click on it. Services pages, get rid of them. They're awful. They don't really serve anything. Split it down into what you actually do and what people are searching for, rather than just a blanket services page.
Great.
Right. Okay. So we've gone through an exercise of finding some keywords. We've gone through an exercise now of drawing up a sitemap. So we know what pages to add and what we're going to call those pages. But then it's actually really important where we put the keywords actually on the different pages. And the very first thing that we look at is the actual URL, the actual name of the page. So, for example, we want to make sure that we get the keywords within that URL. So, in this example here, the treatment page would be /treatment, and the chiropractic Croydon page would then extend onto that chiropractic Croydon. This is the first indication to Google about what that page is about. So on your page URLs, it's a good idea to have the keywords in there. Now, a health warning does come along with this, because if you change the URL of a page, Google then can't find it. They may have already indexed that page in their index, and it may have SEO value, that existing page. So if you just change the name of the page, you could lose a lot of SEO value. So it might be something that your developer will need to do this, because it's a little bit more technical. If you have a WordPress site, it's quite easy. But what you need to do, and just make a note of this, is if you're changing the names of pages, you need to set up what's called a 301 redirect, basically from the old page name to the new page name. So when Google's looking for the old page name, it says, well, I'm not here anymore, but go through to the new page. Here we go. And any SEO value that the old page has will be transferred over to the new page.
So really important then, if they've had a website that's been around for a number of years, especially and has gained that organic rankings, it's really important.
Absolutely.
That you lose this here, and this is the way to do it.
This is very important. One of the big things that we see on a regular basis is clients who have had new websites built by a developer, and shiny new websites, everything's new, new pages, new page names, all looks fantastic, gets launched, and then it's, all of my rankings have gone, what's happened? And precisely what's happened is that this hasn't happened. You haven't had 301 redirects from the old pages to the new pages. So if you are having a new website, it's vitally important to have this done. Even if you don't have exactly the same types of pages, at least have the old site redirected to the new site, ideally page to page. If you don't do this, you can lose an awful lot of rankings and business almost overnight from launching the new site. And it still amazes me how many developers do not do this, but it's absolutely critical. So if you're thinking of a new website, or even thinking of just changing the names of pages, please make sure you add these 301 redirects, or any rankings that you currently have could be lost literally overnight. Okay, so first place to put the keyword is in your website URL. Second place is somewhere called your meta title. This is a bit of code sitting behind your website, so you may need to get your developer to do this. Or if you have a WordPress site, it's quite easy. There are plugins, one's called Yoast SEO, which is easy to add this. But in essence, all the meta title is, it shows in two areas. When you do a search onto Google, it's the blue line which appears in the listings in the results. Along the top, one here that says Local SEO Services. And if you're actually looking at your website in a browser, it's what appears in the tab at the top of the browser, again, where it says Local SEO Services at the top. So this is called the meta title, and this is a vitally important place to put your keywords. It's one of the first places, almost the first and most important place, where Google gets a hint as to what your page is actually about. So we always put all of our main keywords into the meta title. I'll come on later, and I've got some templates which can make it much easier for you to do this. So at this stage I'm just explaining what they are, and then a bit later I'll show you how to actually write them and a template, and how you can then send to your developer and he knows what to put where.
Exactly that. So don't get too confused, guys. Jot these things down, and then the templates will enable you to, if you are getting your web developer to change things, will enable you to send this over. So that will be really useful. But it's important that we go through these different things so you can see where things go and how it affects your rankings as well.
Meta title, though, just to reiterate, is probably the most important place to have your keywords. It's absolutely vital. So actually here, just a very brief spec, and there's a download which I'll be referring to later, and a blog post which goes into this in more detail. But just very quickly, should be 9 words long, plus or minus 3 words. Keywords are better at the beginning, your primary keywords, because that's what people will see first of all. 60 to 70 characters long, but what is also vital, they have to be unique for every page, because if Google are coming, if it's coming to your website and they see 2 pages called the same thing, the meta title is called the same thing, they'll get confused, and confusion basically means lower rankings. So they have to be different for every single page.
And just to confirm, John, on that slide, the reason that you've got the that search piece up there is just to show that the meta title is drawn into the Google search. Is that right?
That's absolutely. The meta title is the blue top line, the top heading of what you will see in a Google on Google when you on the results. It's the blue top heading that you see.
Great.
Next thing, again, this is a bit of code behind the site which you'll need to send to your developer. It's called the meta description, and when you are getting your results in Google, below the meta title, which is the blue line at the top, you'll then get a couple of other lines, which are 2 lines, or 2 or 3 lines, which show in a bit more detail what that web page might be about, and in essence, it's there to entice you to click onto that listing and to go into that website. So, whilst having keywords in here doesn't actually have any effect on your ranking, if the keywords are in here, people are more likely to click on this result because they're highlighted in bold. And secondly, this meta description should be written a bit like a 2-page lineage ad. So there's something to actually entice you onto that website. So for example, on my one here, I've got free local SEO audit as a potential enticement for someone to actually click into that web page. So the meta description is very important for converting people just browsing across the listings in Google to actually clicking into your web page rather than someone else's.
We want to be careful.
Again, I've got a spec here.
Yeah, we want to be careful we're not keyword stuffing as well. Do you want to just talk a little bit about that?
Please. Keyword stuffing is where people get a little bit enthusiastic with where they put their keywords. So, for example, here with local SEO services, you just want to make sure that within the title, within the meta description here, it just reads properly. It reads well to a human being. People have had a tendency in the past to kind of just stuff all the keywords in, but it just reads, it doesn't read well at all. Now Google doesn't like this, people don't like it, so my advice is try and get the keywords in, but just get them if you can. If it doesn't read well, don't do it, basically.
You want it to have a natural feel to it, not just stuff loads of keywords that you've blatantly pulled off the Google keyword tool.
Absolutely. Next place on the next places that Google look at are actually then see it's gone past your meta title. It's now looking at you onto your web page to get some more hints as to is this result relevant to the search. And the primary things that we'll look at are the headings, in the same way in which if you're reading a newspaper, the first thing you'll look at is the heading. So this particular page is about local SEO. So I've made, the technical term of it is an H1 heading, so I've just made sure that my keyword's in there, and I've also got it in my secondary heading, and I'll probably try and get the keyword in the text as well, but going back to Phil's point previously about keyword stuffing, the main thing here is it has to read well. You can't just stuffing keywords in here for the sake of it. You're more likely to get a penalty from Google for doing that and actually cause yourself a drop in rankings. And also people come onto your page and not like it. They'll think this hasn't been written well and they're just as likely to leave that page. So whilst it's good if you can to try and get the keywords here, I'd say the primary place you really want them is in the meta title, and if you can get them here on the page, all the better.
Yeah, and it's interesting with the H2 heading as well, because often when I see when I do website critiques, that H2 heading for most people is welcome to our website, which doesn't add value to anyone. or anything, which is a shame really, because it's a waste of a headline. So utilize it as a headline space to get people to read into the body copy on your website. That's really important. But also it's got value here in terms of SEO, in terms of ranking on your site as well.
Yep, yep. I think the welcome, yeah, along with services pages, welcome is another great one for websites. What I've drawn up here is there's a blog post here which you can go onto, and it's a very detailed description of how to actually go through and write the pages for your website, and also there's templates. I've done a words template here which you can download with some notes here as to how you write each, whether it's a URL, the meta title, the description. So what you can do is write your page in here, following the guidelines. You can then give that page to your developer, who can then then go and put it on your website, and then this will sort of meet all of the criteria, which will help your page to get found.
Yeah, and if you're frantically writing these down right now, don't worry. I'll give you John's email at the end of this. You can fire him an email, and he'll send that over to you if you're worried about scribbling those down.
Absolutely. But just to reiterate, Google does not like spam. It does not like people trying to manipulate its algorithm. So people in the past have tried to do this, and it will now cause you more harm than good. So fundamentally, make sure that your page reads well, which just filters right into all of the things that Entrepreneur Circle talk about, sales copy. So the page has to read well. Right, okay, so we have identified what our pages are going to be. We've identified our keywords, what our pages are going to be called and how they're going to be laid out onto the site. We've now written our page and had it uploaded to our website. Now, Google, it automatically crawls around the internet and it does index pages automatically. But there's no guarantee that if you upload your page that Google will actually find it, especially if your site is fairly old and hasn't had many updates for a while. For old sites, Google doesn't look at them very often. For new sites and for sites with lots of updates, it will look at that site, sometimes once, twice, 3 times a week. For old sites, sometimes it may not look at that site for once every 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 months. So if you have updated your site, it's a good idea to actually tell Google about the new page that you've added. And you can do this via Google Webmaster Tools. Now this is kind of outside the scope of this talk really, so at this stage I'm just going to say submit your new page via Google Webmaster Tools. If you don't know how to do it, there's a blog post here which gives you further ideas of how to do it, or if you're really not inclined, ask your developer to do this for you. This will just potentially help your page to get onto Google quicker. There's no guarantee it will do. Google will never say that it does guarantee that you get on there quicker, but in reality you've got more chances of your page being indexed quicker if you submit it via Google Webmaster Tools. Right. Now we need to measure the rankings. If you don't know where you're actually ranking for a particular phrase, you don't know if all of that work that you've just done was actually worth it. Now, so yeah, if you can't measure it, you can't improve it. I'm just going to talk a little bit here about rankings, because a ranking is not is quite as simple as going onto your browser, typing in leaflet Bristol and seeing you're at number 2, because Google it knows what it looks at your web history. So if you've actually been onto that website before, it will automatically put that website higher up in your rankings than it actually would be had you not been there before. And also it will look at where you're located. So you'll probably get a different result if you're located in Bristol compared with if you're located in Glasgow or London. So your actual rankings aren't actually quite as simple as just going onto your browser and doing a search for that search. So what we recommend if you're looking at rankings which you need to be doing, is some software to help you actually determine what those rankings are. Now, each bit of software will actually give you slightly different results, which but really what you want to be seeing is whether your result is improving, staying still, or reducing. So whether there's slight differences in the results between one bit of software and another, in a way that doesn't really matter. The main purpose of this is to make sure that from the work that you've done, that your ranking is improving over time.
Okay, great. So this is software or tools that we can check what our current ranking is now, and then when we've applied these things, we can then go and see how that's improving or not.
That's right. I mean, to be honest, to get decent rankings that show the history, you'd need to go for the paid-for advanced web ranking. And you get the information from the free tool, which is Rank Checker. But if you want to sort of track how it's improving over time, you'd need to manually download all the results and stick them in a spreadsheet and then track them over time. So it takes a bit more time. But if you want the better sort of ranking tool, that's when advanced web ranking sort of comes in. But it's a one-off payment, and I'd highly recommend, to be honest, getting a ranking tool, because then you just know where you're ranking. And I'd suggest once a month that as part of your sort of business tracking, amongst everything else that you track, that once a month you'd be looking at your keyword rankings. So we're starting to draw to a close. We spoke through, first of all, how to select your keywords, brainstorming, coming up with a big list of keywords, whether on a piece of paper or on Excel, expanding that list so you get all the different variations, chiropractor Croydon, chiropractor in Croydon, prior to actually sticking them onto the Google keyword tool. Then copying and paste those into the Google keyword tool, and letting that tell you how many people are searching for those keywords, and also giving you other suggestions as to keywords you can target. You then go through that list and maybe select some ones that you think could be useful, download those onto Excel. I'd then sort those in Excel to ones that either had low competition, if they've got some searches, or if they don't have any searches, obviously go for the ones that do. And then once you've selected those keywords, that will inform pages. So you can then start to put, know what specific pages you're going to call on your site, so whether it be chiropractor Croydon, physio Croydon. Then there's the next phase of theming your site, arranging the site into logical themes, not of a services page, but of whether it's a treatments page to then the various chiropractic treatments, or if you're night trainers, onto then all the different types of night trainers. And then once you've kind of determined how your site looks, and the sort of architecture of the site and the map, you can then start to think about actually writing the pages, and what keywords. And as mentioned, there's either you took the URL down or you can email me, and then there's a template of then how you go about writing your meta title, your meta description, your headings, your main text within your page, which makes sure that you have keywords in the right places. And then once you've written the page, sent it out to your developer, maybe written a number of pages, submit them by Google, so hopefully they'll get indexed quicker than they would be if you were just relying upon Google to do it itself. And then actually see what effect this has had by actually measuring your rankings and seeing how they are improving over time. And whilst this webinar doesn't go into further things you can do to measure your rankings, what this will tell you is how those are performing, those specific keywords, and if in fact there are other things that you need to do to improve the performance of those keywords. But if you do this job well enough, and if you select long enough tail keywords with searches, and you do enough of them, there's a good chance that there will be pages that will get onto number one sort of page, top 10 in Google, by just adding them to your site. And that's not just me saying that, we've experienced that on numerous occasions, whereby purely just adding a well-written, well-targeted page onto a website will get you onto the first page of Google.
Yeah, I think it's what you said earlier, John. What we've laid here is the foundations, isn't it? That underlies everything else. That without this, you're going to struggle no matter what you're doing, no matter, if you're generating blog posts and all sorts of different things like that, and you're spending lots of time trying to drive traffic and do different things on your website, and these are the fundamental things that are really, really key. And they're linked back to, of course, what we talked about earlier, is the things that people are actually searching for. It's not theory. This is what Google is telling us that people are looking for.
Absolutely.
And yeah, some key takeaways there, like the way that people are laying out their websites, for example. And it's an easy mistake to make with things like your services page and things like that. And actually, I think that's going to be an eye-opener for a lot of people, is that can make a massive difference, that alone. But apart from the other things that we've spoken about today, when Google comes looking, that if it's laid out in the right way and it's done in a way that incorporates the keywords, and that can make a big difference as well in your organic rankings.
Even if you took this very, very simplicity, Phil, and said you're a chiropractor in Croydon,
yeah,
and you have a one-page website, and you just make sure that you have chiropractor Croydon written on your homepage instead of welcome, even that will make a positive effect compared with, because otherwise Google has no clue as to what your page is about. So, even if you have a very simple site with only 1 or 2 pages, just rename those pages, just relating to what your business does, and that will help enormously.
Definitely. So I think, John, if you can, obviously people can see there, if they want to drop you an email to get hold of the slides, I think they can then go through and look at some of those slides, like we had the H1 header and the meta tags and things like that might seem a little bit complex, but when you lay them out on that slide on the website, I think it's a lot easier for people to see. So obviously if you want to get the slides from today, that will be quite useful as well. You can drop John an email at john@maxwellweb.co.uk, and there's a couple of other things you do as well, isn't there, John?
Yeah, so there's a couple of 3 things. If you have an existing website, especially if you're a local business, this is much more relevant really to a local business rather than a sort of a national or an e-commerce business. But what we can do is actually run an assessment for your website, and it gives quite a good diagnostic as to, are you hitting the right keywords on the right pages. But also we'll look at other things such as your Google Places listing, maybe any directory listings you do have or you don't have. Also what your competitors are doing as well. So if you have a local business website and would like to have an assessment for it, there's a free service that we offer. So either email me or go to our website, and on the homepage of the website there's a form where you just fill out your business details down there, and then we can do, and we'll actually do a bit of free keyword research for you on this as well. So if you're a chiropractor in Croydon, we'll kind of identify those sort of primary keywords that maybe that you are performing for at the moment.
Definitely.
And also just expanding on the slides that you can download. We have a free download, free PDF that you can download, which is 40 pages, which goes through 6 different areas of SEO, from keyword research to directory listings. Again, this is very much focused on local business, directory listings, how to get links. So there's a free download there for you as well if you'd like some more information about how you could optimize your website.
Good stuff. Thanks, John. And I think your website itself as well is a good template, so people can actually go on, when they go onto the site, have a look at what tabs he's got on there on the top, what headlines, what headers he's got in there, what keywords he's got in there, and how he's moving people around the site, and also what keywords he's using in his headings and different things like that. So another useful little tool or a reference point for you. Brilliant, John. Thank you very much. It's been an interesting hour. Let's. I'm sure we'll catch up again and look at other stuff once people have built the foundations as well. Potentially we can move on to some other tactics as well. But I hope that's been useful to get you to understand the foundations and some of the really important things that you need to be doing with your website. John, thanks very much.
Thank you very much, and good night, everyone.